Hey everyone, welcome to the video. So today we'll be looking at some starting paths for season 67. And it matters a lot because depending on what unlock order you choose, you can have a decent start or be stuck for a few days. And basically we're going to look at some tech we can ignore and some starting troops, using all that to narrow down to an unlock order. And first we can find some pieces of tech that probably aren't going to be that useful long term, but one which I don't know why it's even in the tree is that penalty node. I guess if you want to get to Zuka's like a few keys or sooner, but who would want to take out machine guns or mines? So we won't even think about getting that the whole season. Next is going to be medkits and Zooks. And not because Zooks are a bad option, but if you look ahead, there's other troops you can use that's more on the main path near like important tech. Whenever you have to go out of the way for a troop, you should always think about what others are available. And as we'll get to in a few minutes, there's some better options in Zooks. We can also skip that troop boost over there. It only gets a few extra troop health, troop damage to one troop, and honestly, we probably won't use any of those. So I'd skip that also for the whole season. And next is going to be rifles. Again, like Zooks, not a bad option, but already have heavies as a meat shield, and you can even argue they're better than rifles. So because one we already have and one is off path, we can skip the other one. And same with smoke, it is one of the weaker abilities in Warships. And not only that, you have to get rifles to unlock smoke, so again, it's something maybe you can go back for, but we'll ignore for now. You can also skip a few heroes at 4 ER. And in fact, if you're maxed out at 4 ER, I'd probably take one of those heroes for sure, either Brick or Bullet. But looking just a bit ahead at 5 ER, you get some really strong troops, lasers, seekers, and HCs. So even if you do get Brick early or Bullet, it's not going to matter much once you get those other troops. So in that case, I would skip Brick and also Bullet with Cryos alongside. If you notice, most of the tech we're ignoring is on these dead ends and off path, and also most of it is in the form of troops and heroes. Because as long as you have one or two troops that can really work, you don't need any other ones. It really streamlines the way forward. And the last thing we can ignore is Sparky there at 5 ER. It might paint the picture that Kavan's the best hero, but I wouldn't be so certain. I just think at the beginning of the season for starting pass, you maybe don't want a hero. If you can only use the troops you have, probably the way forward. And now putting aside a bunch of tech, we can talk about the troops we're going to use. Everyone does start off with heavies. It's been a few seasons since we had heavies this early. Some might jump straight to the idea of heavy rush, but we'll see with the deck layouts. Maybe not that straightforward. Another option early on is warriors. I'm not so sure about those because if you notice, we start with mines and have boom mines pretty early in the tree. Warriors do like to clump up and go all the way to the building, so have some doubts on how strong they're going to be at the start. There are Grens available too. They are a little better in a defensive meta. It might turn into something like that, but if anything, they also help with mines. I wouldn't say they're a super strong troop, but being that cheap at 14 keys, something to think about. And we already covered why we crossed off bazookas and rifles, because so far, we have some solid options. Later there is medics on path, but really the only other troop that might be a thing is tanks. And the great benefit with tanks is you don't really need a lot of boost to support them. With heavies, probably want that troop health, troop damage, but tanks don't really need that. You can just drop them and even split them up. They do enough damage and have health to go through their base. If they were at a dead end, I'd probably have second thoughts, but they're on the way to building health, which is usually one of the strongest tech in the tree. So if they're on the way to building health anyways, I'd keep them in mind. But I guess the cool thing about this season is we have probably one of the 3 strongest troops in the tree, all at 5 ER. We can choose between lasers, seekers, and HCs. Well, if you go that top path, have all 3 of them at once. And already one is super strong, but having all 3, it might be worth rushing forward. Lasers and seekers are a bit fragile, so even if you can't make them work, you can still just use HCs. We have heavies early, so they'll be at full power, and I'm sure even HC rushing the whole base can work out. But point being, if you have all these strong troops at 5 ER, it's something to watch out for. And we can take a quick look at the decks. We have 2 ER, which just has a little space on the right side. It does get better at 3, got some 2 dead ends on the left and right. This is where I think Heavy Rush might already come into some trouble. You can have one ER on the far left, some on the far right. It may be a long time to flare from ER to ER. And the deck layout gets even better at 4 ER. Those dead ends get larger and even stronger. 4 ER should be really good to get to, just for the deck layout. Even moving on to 5, I'm not sure if it's better than 4, but it's still a decent deck layout. You have those 2 dead ends left and right, so if you want a fast hit, you have to kind of rely on splitting your troops. And with the decks thought about, you can think of an unlock order. So all this about the starting troops and deck layouts, the tech we can ignore, it's kind of in the back of your mind when thinking what order to unlock stuff. I'd say there's both a solid offense and defense path this season, so we can look at offense first. First is how we're going to get to 3 ER. It may be tempting to go that short path through warriors, that's what I thought about first. But then thinking about it, probably want flare early so you can control your troops, especially on those deck layouts. And honestly, that first boost node is kinda useless. You don't really need GBE, but if you think about the long run, that is gonna add up for 18 keys. So going this top path, it costs a few extra keys early on, but I think it saves you a few more in the long run. I'd probably say Grens or Warriors are both a little useless, so it's not so much about those troops, but more about if you're already getting flare and you want the boost at some point, top side is cheaper on keys. You're only comparing Grens and Warriors. Next, if you're going the offense path, it's really just looking ahead at the troops at 5 ER. So making a straight beeline towards it, going straight to 4 ER first, get that good deck layout, and then you would be skipping that tanks and building health, so probably not likely to rank up early on, but it's more of a long-term approach. You're saving what you can until you get to all those troops at 5 ER. And once you do get those troops, whether it be lasers or seekers, right now we'll stop at seekers because they are really fast and strong, but if they don't work out or you don't like using them, there's lasers right before and HCs right after. Once you get to this point, maybe you can think about going back for building health or boom cannon, shock launchers, any defense you might want to have. I wouldn't say it's completely gonna be Seeker dominant, because I think in any season, even if there's all the tech for Seekers, there's a way to counter them. So this being the offense path, again, probably not gonna rank up early on, it's more of a long-term thing, and you reap those rewards once you get the troops at 5 ER. But we did talk about a counter for Seekers, so let's look at a more defense path. And we'll still keep the first 9 unlocks the same. It's pretty much getting most defenses anyways. I think flare still makes sense because with these deck layouts we saw that there's a lot of dead ends, and flare helps control your troops. Also, you can always make that first boost node into building damage, so add some more defense into the mix. But after 4 ER, I'd make our way towards that building health. First, we are gonna get tanks, and even that I don't think is a bad option at all. In fact, I'll probably use tanks for the most part. I think full tanks is better than full heavies. They're just easier to split and have that extra range and damage. But still, the main thing we are going towards is that building health. One and only in the whole season. After that, maybe heading to shock mines. At this point, there is building damage at 3 ER, but if most people are using heavies or tanks, then having more buildings itself has an impact. So in that case, I'd go with snipers and then critter node, getting flames right after. So just those few unlocks gets you 9 extra buildings. Even after that, I'd get that doom cannon probably. Then going back for that building damage and even that 20 building health after that. It's getting a lot of things at 4 ER, 3 ER. You will be later to 5, but it's a much better chance if you want to rank up early and stay defense in the long run. And if I was to pick a best path for no IT, I'd probably go with the defense one this time. Mainly because you have tanks, which you shouldn't lose too much of. There's no boom cannons at 4 ER. And I think at least not lose as many tanks as heavies. It also gives a good chance to rank up early on. Those are pretty much the 2 starting paths. And let me know what you think about the season and the starting paths. I think we will be streaming the start if you want to check that out. So hope it works out and good luck this season. We'll see you next time.